Hello, Hearties. Welcome to the Hearties hotline. I am Cammie, the hooked Heartie.
Hey everybody, I'm Sarah, the Hawkeye Heartie, and we are here today and we have a very special double
Double!
episode. We are covering When Calls the Heart episode 2, You Get What You Give, and episode 3, All That Glitters.
Okay, question for the day. Why all that glitters?
I'm a little bit confused on that one. It's not glaring for sure.
Mm-mm.
There is an old saying, all that glitters is not gold, which could connect to Goldie's name.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in terms of, talking about the name of the park and the name of the trail and all of the things that get covered in these two episodes. But I don't know. I mean, it could be the coin. The coin is gold.
Yeah,
Um,
there you go.
it could be, they're talking about an upcoming birthday party. There could be lots of glittery things at a teenage girl's birthday party. I don't,
Oh
there
boy,
could be,
yes, there could.
it could kind of come out in future episodes and kind of make sense as it goes.
Well, and the funny thing is that Kevin was in a garage sale mystery that was called All That Glitters, and it was about diamonds.
Yes.
So, yeah, so that was the first thing that I thought when I saw this title. And in that episode, when he sees Jenny's son covered in dirt and he says, "I didn't know your son was a coal miner." That just made me crack up. I still to this day crack up at that line. And I thought, huh, I wouldn't think that that was done on purpose, but I mean, who knows? It's just funny that that was the mystery that he was in, and this plot line, if it does indeed involve Goldie, then that is something that he is very tied into, and so you got a simultaneous titles there. So
Yeah, no, it originally, like when they released all the titles, I did kind of have to do a double take and go, wait, haven't they had one called that before? But no, it's because of the cabin connection.
yes. But our title today is Hickams, Hazelnuts, and Hargreaves.
Yes,
All
we have a
right.
lot of those things in these two episodes.
There was a lot of those things. So let's start with the one that's going to cause the least amount of drama. Let's start with the hazelnuts.
I was going to say that's actually probably not the least amount of drama. I think we got some trouble brewing with Jed.
That okay, that's a good point. But however, speaking of Jed, did Florence say what I think she said about Molly and Jed? What? Where did that one come from?
I mean, Florence is very opinionated.
Yes, but Molly is also her best friend. And I mean, when they put Florence and Ned together, everybody went, yeah, that makes sense. This one doesn't. But I mean, I was so thrilled to see Jed back, because
He's kind
he's,
of popped up in the background several times,
yeah,
which I
but
love.
that's what I mean. It really keeps his character consistent
Yeah,
because he's still in the town, obviously.
yeah,
He's just not in all the episodes.
it's really great for continuity. I'm really glad that they're, having consistent background people and then
Yeah.
pulling them in when they need somebody for something small. They're pulling in those people that we recognize instead of having some brand new person.
Yeah, there's another huge callback, but we will get to that later.
We will. So
All right.
hazelnuts. So we've had hazelnuts in the background in previous seasons. We knew that Henry was working on helping them grow, um, almost more as a hobby, it seemed, or helping someone else out. I'm not really sure the ownership of that land. is a little
I
iffy.
think it's Henry's
I
now.
think it must be Henry's because he's always been the one it's kind of been dependent on. He has an abundance of them, apparently.
Bumper crop is how they said it. Bumper crop of hazelnut.
So is he selling them to the children for this stand and to Jed, or is Jed growing some also? He Jed bought the stand, so it doesn't really seem like he's necessarily the one growing everything for the stand.
It looked to me like it was Jed's stand because he bought the location.
Oh,
That's what I understood it to mean, that he bought the location and that he is growing hazelnuts himself. And so now he's got a lot of competition because apparently Henry's not giving them away, but just as good as. He's
yeah.
charging that much, and that's something that Jed can't afford to do. But here's my question. I would think that Henry's bumper crop would be common knowledge and that he has all this land and that he's basically tending an orchard of hazelnut trees. Why on earth? I mean, because this is the first time that I've heard of Jed raising hazelnuts. So
Well,
unless it
he
was
had more
something,
things. Jed certainly had more things at his stand. It just seemed like there was a lot of nuts.
yeah.
It
So I
also
guess
looked like different kinds of nuts, possibly. So
you think wait, say that again. Different kinds.
I believe he had different kinds of nuts, but I'm not 100% certain on that. But it looked like there were different bins of different things at the
I
stand.
thought they were all hazelnuts.
But it could have just, I mean, that's a big stand for just hazelnuts.
Yeah.
I mean, gotta diversify a little bit.
I don't know. And this is the first time that we've heard anything about Jed doing hazelnuts. It's always been farm animals and crops, not necessarily hazelnuts, but animals
Might just
and
be what's in season right now and more
yeah.
things. And he would rotate what he's going to have at the stand. I mean, it doesn't make sense that, an adult man who's got a lot more expenses, you would think, who's probably trying to put his daughter through college, all of those things, to put all of your eggs in the hazelnut basket. It
No,
doesn't make a lot of sense in a small town who I would think you would just like not have a huge demand for hazelnuts.
well, now
You
there's a huge demand.
Yeah. But I do feel for him because he's a very experienced farmer. He probably does a really good job at everything he's doing. But you're going to, even without the cost difference, people are going to buy from the kids, in theory, more so than an adult. I mean, in your mind, you're like, oh, we want to support these cute kids. They're working hard. We want to teach them hard work and perseverance and all of that. And we don't want to disappoint them. And it might be more meaningful to buy from the person who has bills to pay. I don't know. It's
I think that the only person who is going to buy hazelnuts from Jed is going to be Florence. And then she's going to drag Ned into it as well because she doesn't want comic books destroying the minds of the children.
but there was definitely hinting at this, and so maybe Molly will be a loyal customer as well.
Oh, it's looking like that's very much building towards what that will be. So let's rewind just a little bit to when all of this kind of took root and started out. So Joseph says, "I'll help you," because there is no way that Henry would get all of that in by himself. There's no way. So Joseph says, "I'll help you," and then he says, and then Joseph says, there's no way the two of us are going to be able to get this done. I'm still wondering where this endless supply of money is coming from for Henry, because he says, hey kids, you want to make some comic book money, and so that gets them over there to help. And I'm still trying to figure out, because he's trying to cut out everything that is not simple. He doesn't want anything to do with business. So how is he
Doesn't he
living?
still have money though from a few seasons ago?
I would think. I mean, he always seems like the man who has the money. I'm just wondering, from where is it coming?
I just
So,
think he has sat on it
you think?
for years. I mean, he did the whole scholarship for Rosaline, and I mean, clearly had a lot of money at that point. He's just sitting on quite the nest egg.
He's gotta be, and he wants to keep everything as simple as possible. So he has now hired all the kids in town. But it was so cute to see the way he was watching the kids and seeing what motivated them and seeing what made all of them tick, and watching, okay, can we talk about a strange scene pairing? Emily and Henry Gowan.
I loved it.
I loved
I
it. I just thought, who would have ever thought that we would see Emily Montgomery and Henry Gowan in the same scene playing off of each other, and her not being terrified of him.
It really goes to show, how far his characters come, how grown up Emily is being. She clearly has a mind for business.
Clearly, and not for comic books, but magazines.
Yes, no, I can see her really being a fun character over the years if given the opportunity.
Yeah, and the other thing, there are two things about Emily. So she has been put in charge of the hazelnut business for all intents and purposes. Henry is the owner and she's the CEO.
Yeah, yeah, no, I like it. I'll honestly say I was a little confused with how Henry acted like he needed so much help to do anything with this. I'll do it if you do it with me, Joseph. It seemed, I don't know, a little out of character. I would get it if he was just doing that with the children. But with Joseph, felt a little different.
I have a theory.
Yes. I figured you would have a theory.
I do. I think that he doesn't want all of these profits. He wants Joseph to take part of the money. He doesn't want to do business by himself, because that, I think, would lead to his former image, which he has tried so hard to get rid of. So he's over here saying, I'm not doing this by myself. I'll do it if you'll do it with me. And so then that way, Joseph splits the profits with him 50-50. Joseph gets a fabulous side hustle, if you will. And I mean, the man's got two children. One's about to go to college in Hamilton.
He's so busy though.
Yes, but preachers don't make a whole lot of money. They have the cafe and everybody loves Minnie's cooking, but side hustles never hurt. But I think that's the biggest thing, is Henry does not want to be the big businessman in town anymore, and he wants to stay completely away from that image. He wants to stay away from the thought of that image. And so if he can share it with Joseph, who is somebody who is also giving him so much help. He wants him to see profits from all of his endeavors to help him. And they've become such good friends. That's the other thing, I think. He is such good friends with Joseph. And there was that moment. It was so strange that this would come to me, but the shot of their hands, the shot of their hands shaking hands, in the outside world, not in Hope Valley, luckily and gratefully, but in the outside world, things are not wonderful between different races at this point. And so seeing that beautiful shot of two men from completely different races shaking hands with a firm grasp of friendship, it's such a beautiful shot and a beautiful sentiment. And I also think that Henry is tired of doing things alone. He's tired of doing things alone. He's tired of being alone. And he figures if he doesn't stop acting so crusty, then he's going to be alone forever in whatever capacity you want to put it. Yeah. So he is surrounding himself with people. It's taking a little bit of warming up, but he's doing it. And he wants his friend to share in his success. That was a really long-winded theory, but there you go. There's my theory.
There you go. Yeah.
But and the music, that was brilliant. I imagined my daughters asking me, "Mom, can I listen to music while I clean my room?" It is so motivating. It is so motivating when I'm cleaning a room or I have a project in front of me. If I'm just sitting there, it is so boring. But if I'm listening to a book or listening to music, or if I have not something that I've never seen before, but if I have a movie or a TV show that I really love on the TV, I get so much done because I'm moving and there's noise in the background. And so having that gramophone there with them hammering the hazelnuts in time with the music, it was just great. It was wonderful. And we got to see more of Emily and Opal, which we haven't.
No,
we haven't in a while. So what do you think about the situation after hearing my theory? Does it make more sense?
Oh, it makes a lot of sense. I don't disagree with it at all. It just seemed a bit out of place, almost like there was more to it. Like it would have made more sense if there had also been a storyline with like Joseph needing something more to do, or Joseph feeling like he wanted a partnership with somebody for more time with a friend, or if there had just been like another side to it, and then you like have that piece where it like all comes together. It just felt like there was a piece missing to the story.
Okay, that part I can agree with. That does make sense, even if it was just a throwaway line to Minnie. I miss working with Henry, or I need to see how Henry is. We haven't talked in a while, or something like that.
Just something that would have kind of tied it together a bit more. It felt a bit like this should be meaningful, but I'm not sure why.
But you do agree on the hand shot, right?
Loved that was a great filming decision that I really liked.
Okay, well, speaking of working to music, let's go to the radio. Okay, so number one, why did Rosemary not put Elizabeth up there?
We hear that she does later, but
about the comic books.
Yes.
Where she's saying, I need a contrary opinion. I'm like, hello, best friend, right here.
Honestly, I want to know really more of what Elizabeth's take on the comic books is, because I feel like she's probably sees both sides to it. Yeah. I think she definitely doesn't want children reading them in school, which is fair.
Well, that's exactly what happened. She had to
shouldn't be doing books. You shouldn't be doing anything that's not the assignment in school. However, I do think she loves seeing them passionate about something. I do think that she sees the value in loving to read, even if it's, a comic book. I do think as a teacher, she would see that value of like kids getting excited about it and it introducing them to books in a different way.
Yeah.
And also being a great tool for kids who maybe are struggling to read and need more visual assistance um,
Okay.
while they're learning. I think there's a lot of educational benefits to things like comic books as long as they're used appropriately and the content piece like that Florence was complaining about, you're gonna find that in fantasy type books as well without pictures. So that to me wasn't the best argument against them. Like it's a valid point, and yet I see Elizabeth really taking both sides. So.
But the fact that she had been reading it because she knew the entire storyline, that was just a cute moment. Ned going, I knew it. But yeah, I did wonder, why did Rosemary not put her best friend on the air when she was looking for another opinion? Why did she not just put her on? But that idea that she had, just the face that she made when there it appeared, and then when she is talking to Florence and Rosemary realizes that this is the opinion that she's been needing, and Elizabeth just goes, I loved that expression. It was so cute. It was so Elizabeth, but I don't think we've seen it. If we have, it's been a long time since we've seen something like, yes, I'm so good.
I will say in both of these episodes, we had very fun best friend banter and camaraderie.
Okay, we're going to talk more about the trail itself in a little bit, but beekeeping hats?
It made zero sense, which is why I loved it. It's not going to help you blend in the forest.
You're wearing pink. You're wearing blue. Not going to help hide you if you're holding a branch.
Yeah, no, and I'm so glad Hickam was there because it was the perfect scene.
Well, and the funny thing is, Aaron and Ben have now announced publicly that they are a couple, and they have been for a very long time. I think a lot of us suspected or knew, but now it's official, right? And so having the two of them in a scene together was a treat anyway. But then on top of it, having the two of them being embarrassed and walking away so that they could give Lee and Rosemary some privacy so they could kiss on the new hiking trail, that just, I don't know why, but it just made me laugh. It made me laugh so hard. Like, I bet the two of them wish they had that scene.
Yeah, I just think they made so many great choices with that storyline, just really having the ability to give us sheer comic relief. Like there was nothing needy about the whole entire storyline. There was nothing that really needed to happen for other things to happen.
Yeah.
I get that the naming of the trail could definitely be tied into other things throughout the storyline. But in general, everything, the way that all went down was not crucial. But I think it was crucial to have something off the wall silly.
Yeah, that we could just laugh at.
That could just bring the characters together. I think that was fabulous to see Rosemary and Elizabeth doing something very Lucy and Ethel. I mean,
That's the perfect name for it.
I mean, it was so crazy. It made no sense. But it's one of those things where it's like sometimes when it's your best friend, it doesn't have to make sense. You just go. You just do what they need you to do.
Apparently, because I did not know why on earth Elizabeth, with all of her down to earth logic, would think that a beekeeping hat could be camouflaged in the forest.
Well, and I was hoping that maybe their intention was more like just to keep bugs off their face.
That probably was it.
But it did appear to be that they were trying to camouflage themselves with it, and it made no sense and was awesome.
Okay, before we get too far away from the radio, I'm so surprised that Rosemary gave up the microphone.
For the children.
Yes.
I think it's great because she has come a long way. She definitely, I don't think she would have done it for any other people, but I think for the kids, I think she recognizes how important that is to give them opportunities to grow, but also like give something fun for the kids to listen to as well.
Hey, wider audience.
Exactly.
Yep.
People tuning in, and if the kids are talking about it, then their parents will talk about it. I think it's a smart business decision because it's not going to steal from her demographic at all.
I remember I specifically said in our episode 1 recap, if anybody can talk for an hour, she can. And that's exactly what Nathan said. At the end of You Get What You Give, I said, yep, Nathan and me, we're on the same wavelength.
On the same
Absolutely.
page.
Yes.
But it does sound like she's roped in pretty much everyone in town to have different guest appearances.
I gotta say, those were really clever names. I know they probably did not take a whole lot of work to come up with, but still, I can just imagine the writer's room just throwing out ideas off the top of their heads, writing them all down, and then saying, okay, we'll take this one, this one, this one. You know, so, Mountie Matters, Gavel Gab, and Chalk Talk.
I would be willing to bet that's not the last one we've heard. I bet something else. Do we have one with Faith? Is Faith doing a medical thing? I think Hickam could really talk about anything because he's had so many jobs.
Yeah. Now let's return to that other character who was in between the friends and went down the mountain with the school teacher. Oh man. Okay, so I have got to say that when they first drove into town, they looked tired and exhausted and ready to go take a nap for a little bit. They made it sound like it was for a very different reason.
So, yes. So, like, if this had been on any other network, then that intro, my mind would have gone to a lot of places.
That's exactly where my mind did go.
It went there, but I was like, well, they're not going there. Like, they're not going there.
I mean, they just got back from their honeymoon and how guilty they were acting. Like, we saw everything. I was like,
I know. That's what was so funny about it. So, okay, so think back. When Jack and Elizabeth came back, or after their wedding, they didn't go on their honeymoon, but after their wedding, there was a lot of silly romantic banter where it was very, played up that their relationship had progressed. And they did it from afar in a very respectful way, in that it was more of Rosemary's sadness of not being in the honeymoon phase anymore.
right.
And that was a great way to acknowledge it without making it inappropriate, right?
The way you're trying to dance around this is just hysterical to me. Say it without saying it.
Right? I mean, that's the beauty of Hallmark, is saying it without saying it.
Exactly.
So it was very interesting that I actually found it really clever that they kind of poked fun at it with the Hickams without it even meaning that, but making, they did it on purpose to make people wonder if that's what they were implying. And I thought that was pretty brilliant, quite honestly.
It was, yes. I'm still laughing.
I cannot imagine. I would imagine that took them several takes, because they were probably cracking up doing those lines with a straight face.
Probably. And I mean, how many times do you think Andrea Brooks just spit out, "Welcome home, lovebirds"?
I mean, I would think this was a hard scene to shoot, but
yeah,
I thought it was really brilliant to take this in a very different direction. The whole honeymoon's over kind of way.
That makes it, it makes you want to laugh and cry at the same time, because their honeymoon was awful. I mean, if something could have gone wrong, it did. And then they get home and everything's awful. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this is not good. I mean, if this had happened to me as a newlywed, I was upset that I missed out on several attractions at Disney World because we got rained out one day and I thought my honeymoon ended badly. I'm like, nope, my honeymoon was a dream compared to these two. Oh my gosh.
I agree, but I also just felt like it was really great to see them delve into deeper issues with them, because they are clearly going to be such a strong couple on the show.
Yeah.
They really have been from the start, and just in terms of how respectful they have been with each other, how much he's embraced her culture, and how much, she's really depended on him when she's had such a crazy background in terms of marriage. I would have expected her to have been much more gun shy, much more wanting to take things slowly. And so I really, really have just always really loved the tone that they've set with their relationship. And so I felt like, even though, you feel for them, you don't want them to have gone through these awful situations when they should have just been celebrating. But it really just makes it that much stronger and that much deeper of a relationship. They're really starting out having faced all of these issues together already.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, they are very much the innocent couple of Hope Valley. They're not the super romantic couple. Yes, their wedding made me cry. Yes, I know. But still, they are very much the light-hearted couple. They are kind of comic relief, but not in the Lucy and Ricky way, when it seems like they're doing it on purpose to help the people around them. That's just the way they are. They're very innocent. They're very playful. They're very childlike. And I don't mean childish. I mean childlike.
No, I know. It's because he's the perpetual boy next door.
Right.
In his character.
Right.
And so you just, even though he's a grown man who has had every job in town, he still is just that sweet boy.
Right. And see, to watch them deal with a fight fresh off the honeymoon. It was really interesting to see that through their eyes. How long did it take you after you came home from your honeymoon to have your first fight? Mine was several months before we had our first fight. So,
I don't know. Yeah, I don't feel like we had very many disagreements early on.
yeah,
Certainly not a big fight where I went somewhere else to sleep.
right. Yeah, and that's what I mean. To see them handling it, dealing with it, and getting advice from one person who's never been married and one who got divorced. Well, whatever. But they were giving sound advice.
They were.
They were giving very sound advice, and May was able to use Faith and Mike was able to use Bill as sounding boards so that they could get their feelings out to somebody who was not in the middle of the situation. They were able to talk it out. They were able to take it out of their heads and look at it. So that was very, very adult behavior for the innocent and childlike couple of Hope Valley. And so that makes me think that the two of them are going to progress from just the childlike, sweet, happy, innocent couple. They're going to maybe have bigger things that not necessarily they deal with because this is pretty big, but they're going to help the town maybe deal with things. And okay, this goes back to childlike, but it was just so sweet that the two of them had the same idea to go back to the place where Mike proposed so that they could make up, and it felt like a makeup. And then Mike had taken it a step further than May did, and he had that beautiful table all laid out. It was just lovely. It was adorable.
Yeah, no, I also want to say just like the way that the show really like the visuals for all of that. So having like the that when they walked in, he got to carry her over the threshold. It was so gorgeous from the outside, and then you just go from the shot from the outside where everything's so pretty and beautiful and it's such a sweet moment, and then you go to the inside where you've got the water and it's just like everything looks awful.
As
Really,
writers,
yeah,
as a pair of writers, they showed, they didn't tell.
yeah.
And that was fantastic.
It was very well done scene, and just the whole thing. And I felt like the characters really were true to themselves. They both really approached the disagreement as I would expect each of them individually to have acted. It was so well thought out in terms of how would May and Mike fight? What would they do?
Even though it wasn't
How would they
me.
feel? Yeah. And so it was very well done. I loved it.
Yeah. And I think that we are satisfied with the resolution for now that they're going to stay above the cafe. I mean, they said it'll be cramped, and he said, I would rather live in a shoebox than not be with you. But really and truly, how much room do you need up there? You've got the bed, you've got a closet that you can fit some things in, and you're going to be spending all of your time when you're not engaging in marriage activities. You're going to be out and about. So, who needs more than a room above the cafe? And it's dry. It's dry.
No, yeah, no, it's definitely, yeah.
And it's fully functioning.
Yeah. I think for me, it's less about being cramped, like in the actual room. I think that's fine. I don't think anybody would care about that.
Yeah.
I think it's more about the fact that you are sharing a space now with Faith and Lily, and probably one bathroom.
That's a good point. Yes.
So not just sharing a space in general, but sharing a space now with like a family with a kid. Like that's a little awkward when you're like a newly married couple.
Yeah, that part is a little awkward.
Even just to have dinner. Now their eating space is now
The cafe.
in the back of the cafe. So you just, just not a
I'll
lot of
make it.
like a lot of romantic couples here just are not getting alone time. It's such a broad theme throughout.
It is a theme. Ned and Florence seem to be okay. They don't seem to be, and they work together.
They have their own house.
Have their own house, and they work together. So, all right. Speaking of children and childlike, let me just say this about this childlike person. Now I have more of an inkling as to why he was at the bottom of his class. And I'm talking strictly from episode 2. We got more of that from episode 3, but when I saw him across the street, when Elizabeth asked how he was settling in, I went, huh, he's a klutz. Okay, yeah, that makes a whole lot more sense because he wasn't showing any of that in the first episode. So now it makes sense.
Yeah, no, there were a lot of revelations in both episodes about Mr. Oliver. Even knowing everything we know from both episodes.
Yeah.
It's really crazy to look at how organized he is, how meticulous he is for details.
And how smart. I mean, I'm not just talking about book smart. This kid has street smarts. He's making all of these connections. He's organizing them in those connections that he made. I mean, you saw Nathan.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is like, I get how you have to be well-rounded and everything to get, top marks in school and everything.
Sure.
But it's crazy to think how smart he is in so many ways and that he's still at the bottom of his class simply from writing.
Yeah.
Because you would think in Mountie Academy, at least, that there would be so many things that you're being graded on besides just writing. Because I mean, like, a lot of these people are not incredibly genius level. I mean, when you get they're doing, you have a lot of people that do grunt work, you have a lot of people that are doing a lot of active physical labor in the Mounties, and I would understand that, like, to be higher up in the Mounties you would need to have really good written communication, but it's surprising to me that he wouldn't be higher simply because of the other factors of how smart he is and not just that one factor bringing him all the way to the bottom.
Do you think that Hargreaves or someone else who's higher up in authority at the Mountie Academy has it in for him? Or is really being hard on him because we found out that he was living with a foster family?
Yeah, which, by the way, who said that there was something weird with his mom? That
you didn't say he was an orphan or he had been.
He's not an orphan. He said his dad passed away and his mom was back east.
Yes. And you said that she was in jail. That's all you said.
She could be. That could be why he is.
No, I was waiting. For him to say it.
Either way, the point was when he said my mom's back east, there was more to that about his mom.
Yeah.
And it could be that she's in jail and that's why he was in foster care, or it could be that she left him and that's why she was in foster care, or that she, has some issue is in
but that wasn't one of the things you said. You just said jail.
I said that was my first theory because it connects him to Nathan.
That was your first theory, and
however,
the theory you mentioned out loud to me.
But I said the reason that I know there's something is because of how he answered the question about his mom. So I claim partial points for that.
You can have partial points, but you cannot broaden the spectrum and say, oh yeah, there was something weird with his mom.
Well,
No,
we will
it's
see.
kind
She
of
still could be in
red-blooded.
jail. She still could be in jail. But
Yeah, she still could.
but definitely that is like huge revelation. Oh, just your heart just goes out to him with this story. Like, oh my gosh, they didn't let him go to school.
Yeah.
They, you know, they had him as a foster child in order to work their farm.
Yeah. I mean, that was typical.
Yeah, totally. But just
But
hmm.
yeah,
And
but
then
it's
when you
terrible.
think about how long he may have not been in school, and then you look at how smart he is.
It's a wonder that he is that
Wow.
smart.
I mean, it just makes you think, like, imagine if he had been in a school.
That kid would be a prodigy if he had been in school.
Yeah. And so then look at like, okay, so yes, this is an easy out. A lot of kids that are in tough situations growing up look to law enforcement or military
Mm-hmm.
as the next step to get them out of the situation they're in. However, it also just really makes you wonder, like, because he's not only just trying to get out, he is trying very hard. He is giving it everything he
Yeah,
has.
he wants to make something of himself.
And he's really putting a lot of care into it, a lot of thought into it, and yet also full of just the humble nobility of like, I've been found out, I'm gonna do the right thing and just leave so that it doesn't reflect badly on you. You know,
That was the sweetest thing. Oh my gosh. I thought I was gonna die when he did that. I went, no, no, don't leave. Don't leave, Oliver.
I
But
mean, the plausible deniability alone, like he's thinking 3 or 4 steps ahead in every
that's
situation.
exactly what I was gonna say. I watched Picture Perfect Mysteries just the other day, and they're doing the chess game by mail, right?
Mhm.
And he is 3 or 4 steps ahead so that he doesn't get Hargreaves to say to Nathan, checkmate.
Yeah, it's like he's got all of the pieces in his mind working together,
Yep.
and such and also, like I said, with the humble Elizabeth approaching him, yeah, he still tried to keep his cover, but he also, like, he didn't get defensive. He
No,
didn't
he said, yes, I'd love help.
he didn't, he wasn't ashamed. He
Mm-mm.
was just, he was trying to keep his story together to protect himself and protect Nathan and protect his goal
Yeah.
of becoming a Mountie and making something of himself. But he also fully acknowledged that he needed help with it. He fully was open and honest about what he needed to be open and honest with, and accepting of help, willing to do anything to make it work.
Okay, now enough of this, fluffy, meaningless stuff. Let's get to the really important question. Does
Okay.
he like Allie?
I mean, they've hinted at it a little.
A little.
Well, here's the thing. They clearly are going to introduce another potential suitor for her. And
One that she is very taken with, we see.
and I think I've said this before, but Brian Bird has said in interviews that they're not going the route of a triangle with her. So, or at least I didn't see the way the question was worded, but it sounded like that was off the table. So I think it's more of a just like showing that she's interested in boys now, with having kind of some Oliver stuff. But it also could be that it goes nowhere with Earl Wyatt, and that
Yeah.
it comes back around to Oliver, and maybe Oliver is more of the actual love interest.
that is what it looks like to me right now. And just the way that Oliver kept looking at Allie and was very keen on tagging her at the end of the potluck.
Tag is such a great game when you're interested in someone. It really is. I actually recall playing as a like tween age.
Yep.
With someone I had a crush on, and that is a really great game at that age.
Yeah. Nathan and Elizabeth were playing a little bit of statue tag, shall I say, because they didn't go anywhere there at the end of the episode while the kids and Uncle Bill were playing tag. They had a little bit of a game of tag in their in the next episode, All That Glitters, but we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, I think Oliver is going places. I think that he has proved himself enough for Nathan to put faith in him. Mm-hmm. And I really loved the way that he took Elizabeth's suggestion, Nathan, and gave him away, because at first it was just busy work, but then he saw how amazingly he did, and so then he gave him more, and he gave him chances to succeed. And then when he had succeeded, he said, no, you're not going to the saloon, you're not going to the cafe to eat by yourself. Come on, we're going to give you a proper dinner. And, there goes the humility again. Oliver saying, I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to impose. And just take the win, kid. So, but yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of potential in him. And there's a lot of story potential in him, I think.
I have a quick question while we're on this.
Okay, that I do too.
So it's a little adjacent. So sorry if we're getting off track, but so the win, taking the win, giving the win. Is there really a wolf, or did Elizabeth give the kids a win?
Okay, my question for you that you can think for a second on is Oliver involved in the mystery that's going to be the thing that Nathan goes undercover for? Okay, so you think about mine, I'll think about yours. Do 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 do. I don't think that Elizabeth gave it to him. That would be a little hard to fabricate back then. I think that was an actual track.
I do now. After having gone a whole episode later, and they even had a little reference, I was thinking originally when that scene happened that this is very convenient that she's talking about giving kids a win, and then they're out there, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, look at this, it's a perfect specimen and it's in perfect shape, and it's just right here where we happen to be standing.
Okay. Yeah.
The way it was pointed out to everyone, and then it gave Allie something to be excited about. It gave her something to research and look into and feel smart about. So it was interesting timing. However, I do feel like the way it's played out doesn't seem like it was that. But definitely my senses were
your spidey senses.
My spidey senses were coming out. I was like, wait a minute, is she doing the same thing she recommended doing to someone else? Really work out interestingly to where Allie now has this new interest of things to do, where she needed something. of interest. So yeah, interesting timing.
Okay, your turn.
I think ultimately no, but I think there may be a red herring there.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think that he is going to be central. Maybe he's one tiny little part, but it would be cool. It would be cool if somehow it all came back and everything went full circle, and somehow if his mother's in jail, then the mystery could surround him somehow.
Oh my gosh, I have it. I've solved the entire thing.
She's got it.
I gotta put the hat on. Okay, I've got it.
Give us the answer, Sherlock.
His mom is the train robber. His mom is the train robber. She left him some coins that she stole. He spent it at the mercantile.
Not even thinking.
Not even thinking, because he doesn't know. He might not know that was from. Maybe they don't know she's the train robber. Maybe she got caught for something else, because the train robbery wasn't solved, right? So yeah, there you go. That's my theory. It's probably not true.
But it would be cool.
But that could be a connection. That could be a connection. And in that case, Oliver probably has no clue that it's tied to that train robbery, but may be aware that his mother, and maybe she's not in jail yet, but she will be.
Oh, see, now you're changing it.
Well, that would still, she ran away because she was, knew she was guilty and she was hiding.
And she's fugitive.
Family. But if she goes to jail now and he helps catch her and even turn her in, then there will be a really big bonding opportunity for him and Nathan.
Absolutely.
Over parents.
Okay, well, now that we've got the hat on, we might as well do some more talking about that double-headed eagle. Here we go. A double-headed eagle.
That was shot really cute. That was really cute how they did that.
A great shot. I loved it. Okay, so Bill and Rosie are getting the gang together again, the whole gang of two, to solve the Great Rocky Mountain train robbery of 1907.
So, do you think, it seems obvious to me, they had to have just been listening to the fans last year going, this mystery stuff is what was missing. Not that we knew we were missing anything. We loved the show, but there was something that just was so attention grabbing about throwing in a real mysterious plot and having unexpected people be the sleuths, so to speak. A pair you hadn't really seen together before, and having it be both logical people. This isn't no offense, I love them, but it isn't like the Hallmark mysteries where all of a sudden you've got a librarian or a baker, trying to find a murderer. You do have, it's very logical to have the journalist, editor of the newspaper,
and the judge
working on a story, and it's very logical for a judge who has a lot of information about other things, investigations, and has a lot of connections. These are people that would work on this type of a case.
Yes, but Sarah, let's say it the other way. Let's say it
the ridiculous way.
Let's say it the other way so that it makes less sense. The actress and the James Bond of Hope Valley.
or the retired actress and mother and the former cafe cook.
And cafe part owner. Yep.
Egg scrambler.
Yeah. We could also say Jack's former fiance. That would sound really good.
Yeah. See, there's so many levels to it. But I'm sure they just kind of, they threw that in as something fun and intriguing last year. And I think there was a lot of really positive fan reaction to that. I think people really, really got on board, murder board, so to speak. And there was a lot of positive fan reaction. And to find a way to bring that back with something different this year is really awesome. And is kind of fitting with the way Hallmark's mysteries go of like, oh, this person who randomly got pulled into a crime is now getting pulled into crimes every week. It's so strange. But I'm thrilled that they found a way to bring it back. I'm hopeful we will have another board this year with some strings tying some information together.
Or silk ribbon, as the case may
silk
be.
ribbon, whatever, I mean, you might, I think it needs to be plaid though. I think we need like a plaid border or something just to tie it in, like, oh, I had this extra plaid fabric making Lee's last suit, so I just put it up here on the board so we could tack stuff to it. That'd be fun. But I'm really glad that I have lots of opportunities to keep wearing this hat and really get worth.
Keep it on for this last comment, because I really loved how Bill just said very casually to Nathan, I need to borrow some of your case files. Nothing you need to know about yet. And then, perfect order. Thank Oliver for me. So Bill's killing two birds with one stone there. He's showing him that he needs to keep Oliver, and he's saying, hey, I need to borrow these old files of yours. But my point is, yes, I'm being silly, but my point is, I really, really liked how casually it was done. So this was something that has been done before, but even better, Bill said, look, I need to borrow these. You don't need to know about this yet, but I'll let you know if you do need to be involved. It's none of this secret keeping, making people wonder what you're up to junk that has been done in many, many times in the past in a number of shows. But
right, exactly. And I think it also just kind of, I mean, yes, he's a judge. He probably legally has access to this type of thing. Like, it's probably not an issue that he's borrowing it.
No, but it's a courtesy.
But at the same time, yes, it also just goes to show, it also there probably were procedures he was skipping because they're friends. And I think maybe that's something Nathan can consider as he's having this internal struggle of how much he needs to follow procedures with everything going on with Oliver and everything. Like, oh, there are situations that you can bend and flex your way through and still be following the law while also doing what is needed and necessary for the situation.
Why don't we talk some more about that scene while we're there? Because it seems natural. Besides that line of, I need to borrow some of your old case files, the best line I think would have to be, oh, rough day so far. Is it the kid or Elizabeth? Both. I mean, in a very, very small amount of time, we have gone from saying it's about time the two of you got together, and you move slower than molasses in January, pal. And we've gone from that to, oh, girlfriend problems.
Yes, I love the Bill dynamic with the whole Nathan and Elizabeth situation.
But the fact that he said almost word for word what Elizabeth said, Oliver is your cadet, he's your responsibility. Nathan acknowledges that you sound like Elizabeth. Maybe you should listen to her. So that whole idea that Nathan should report Oliver to Hargreaves, number one, Nathan saying, ethically, I have to report this. and and Elizabeth says, ethically, you need to help him. I think that that's more, technically you need to report this.
Right.
But,
Ethically was probably the wrong word.
yeah.
But it's how he felt. It's how he felt.
No, I know. But I'm going to go with morally, and where feelings are concerned, don't give that kid to the wolves. Do not feed him to the wolves. Do not throw him in the lion's den, please.
Yeah.
Pretty please, because Hargreaves would tear him to bits. And he does not need that. As my mother said, he's too cute. she thinks that Oliver's adorable. So
that's fair.
Yeah. But yeah, ethically, they need to help him. Technically, he should report it, but morally, save him from the lion's den.
Right. I think this was the perfect first couple disagreement for them. There's so many things that can be written, right, to have a couple fight about something on a show, but for them to make it about, have it first of all involve his work. So it's not a personal disagreement. It's more of a battle of like what's right and wrong, not just like, oh, I didn't like that you did this or something.
Yeah.
Like,
and it involves her profession as well.
Exactly. It involves both of their professions. So they're taking it very seriously, and they're almost taking it not emotionally or not personally because of that. They're really trying to not even, I honestly think the way that both of them communicate with each other, if it was a personal disagreement, they both would have just kind of given in and been like, yeah, we'll compromise, no big deal. But because he had professional ramifications that could come of this, and because she has this obligation she feels to be the teacher, so neither one of them is looking at it as this is a disagreement between us as a couple. They're looking at it as a disagreement between the Mountie and the town teacher. And that's why it was so perfect, because they did approach it differently than they would have if they weren't in a relationship. They probably would have dug in and been a lot more stubborn and forceful with each other if they were not in a relationship with each other.
Probably.
And so they were very respectful of the situation that they're in and each other's feelings and each other's professional standpoint. But they also were really good about we're clearly not agreeing on this. We need to take a break from this discussion and go and give each other space to think about it and consider all the options and everything before coming back together. And then once he had really considered it and saw it from the other perspectives and gotten some pushback from Bill, that was beautifully written.
One thing that I really loved is neither one of them got that angry.
They were looking at it very logically.
Yeah, they got upset. They had their own viewpoints from their own perspectives, and words were tossed around, but there wasn't this huge blowout fight where they don't speak to each other for days on end. They just needed a few minutes. They just needed a few minutes,
and it was very respectfully disagreeing.
It was
like, I see your point, and this is where I'm stuck. Yes, you're right, and I don't know how to reconcile that with this piece of my responsibility.
Which really shows that they've been through a lot together already before they were a couple, because that was very mature arguing, really. And the other thing is that they both have Oliver's best interests at heart. They really do. That Nathan is feeling the tug from both sides, that he has to do this because he took an oath and he's duty bound to do what he has been ordered to do. But he says there's no reason that this kid can't thrive with help. So you can tell that he is struggling with that. And so he didn't want to take the Mountie high road, if you will. And that was the fight inside him. And then he was just getting more from the morality side of things from Elizabeth's perspective.
Well, and I was also thinking, so he knows that Hargreaves is aware of his relationship with Elizabeth. It's come up. And so there's also got to be a little piece of that, my supervisor already, doesn't like me. What if my supervisor finds out that I did not report this? Like, in any sense, finds out I did not report this, but also what if my supervisor thinks that I didn't report it because Elizabeth asked me not to? And then I've got this like whole other aspect of not doing my job, not just like I made a judgment call that he didn't like, but I made this like, I let somebody who was not a Mountie influence my decision and let my personal relationship influence my professional decisions. And so like there's all those layers to it that I could completely understand him being concerned about.
Oh, I agree. That's a really good point, because we've seen a lot of instances where emotion and romantic feelings have been threatened against or have been brought up in an accusing manner. I mean, Henry Gowan used it with Jack. How many times? I don't know how many times Jack said, my relationship with Elizabeth has nothing to do with this. So, yeah.
I was recurring.
So it's definitely something that we have seen before. And this is somebody new who is by the book, which is almost more dangerous than Henry, because he did everything back in those days. He did everything completely against the book. So this is almost a more dangerous situation if he were to find out.
Yeah.
But now we may talk about the scene where it is resolved, because maybe the arguing part was done very professionally. The resolution had a very different turn.
I also want to say though, what was mature about it is that because and maybe it's because it was more of a professional disagreement, but there was never a note, even when he was frustrated and talking to Bill, there was never a note of concern for their relationship. They weren't jumping to like, this is gonna be a big issue. Now we're in this fight. It was all very much just like, okay, we don't agree on this and we've got to figure it out.
Yeah, it didn't even come up.
It was never a like, oh, I'm mad at you even. Like they weren't even mad at each other. They were just like, how do we get through this? How do we find a resolution to move forward? So
yeah. No, it didn't even come to that remotely.
Did he say I'm sorry? Like, did he actually use those words? Because I don't think there was necessarily anything to be sorry for. He was, expressing that he was wrong without like saying I'm sorry, because he didn't really do anything wrong, but he came around to a new way of thinking and understood where she was coming from and how he could resolve that within how he could like find resolution with that within his responsibility,
right,
and feel okay about it.
You can take the hat off for this part.
Okay, we'll come back to the coin probably, maybe. Okay. It's kind of weird to cover that with the hat on.
Yeah, just a little. Here's what he did say. Okay.
Uh-oh, here we go.
Can I just say, where's my oxygen mask? Well, my scarf will do.
Just fan yourself.
Yeah, there we go. Can I just say that is one of the cutest ways I have ever heard a man admit that he's wrong.
It was very sweet.
He says, Mrs. Thornton.
Did he raise his hand? Didn't he raise his hand? Like that was awesome.
The camera is focused on her, so you see her face, but I wasn't even watching her because he's standing there with his hands behind his back at the back of the school, and so he says, Mrs. Thornton, and then she smiles, and then he slides over and sits down and raises his. It's so silly of me to react so big to it, but it was so cute. It reminded me of season 1.
Definite callbacks, but also just like what was so great about that is that, like you said, this wasn't an apology scene. It wasn't really a makeup scene. It was really just like a reconnecting and getting on the same page kind of conversation. And so he didn't enter the schoolhouse with a like, I've got to make this up to her, or I've got to like make some grand gesture, or I've got, like he was just there like any other day that he went to talk to her. There was nothing out of the ordinary.
I think he went there to say, let's move forward.
Well, yes, but I mean, like, it wasn't like this major, everything's on the line.
No.
We've had a fight. I've got to, do something and make it up to her. There was a lot of casual feeling to it, just like any other time he would stop by to see her. When he stops by at her house and knocks on the door, and he's just casually standing there all the time, like just excited to see her. It was a very calm, casual beginning of the interaction, but it was also, they've had this tension between them, and now he sees her from from behind as she's writing on the chalkboard, and you can see on his face, like, it's almost just like this giddy schoolboy, like seeing his crush. Like, he's just like, aw, and he's like, how can I be cute? Like, and like that's just his intention, is just like, yeah, we're just having this normal everyday conversation, and I'm just gonna do my sweet little flirting thing.
May I also point out, Will actually pointed this out to me, and I thought it was great. Chemistry is written on the.
Is that what she was writing? Oh my gosh. Yes, they have that in spades.
So here's what he said. After she calls on him, he said, I read your lesson plan. It's perfect, right down to the books he'd read. He'd be lucky to have you as a teacher, just like I'm lucky to have you to tell me when I'm wrong. That's what he said. And then she comes down and says, thank you. And so we go from the giddy schoolboy to the man looking adoringly at the woman that he loves. You never give up on people, just one of the many reasons why I love you. And this is such a small thing, but I absolutely love it, because this is what couples in love who are comfortable with each other do. She reaches out, he reaches out, she takes his hands, and she puts his hands behind her. And I just went, oh my gosh, I think I'm gonna die.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love that.
She did say I love you too, and now it's starting to get to me.
Oh no, I knew when she said that you were gonna have an issue.
It didn't get to me the first time because it was just so full of emotion, but now I'm ready for her to just say I love you.
Yeah, it's like, I agree with you, but not I don't think it has to be every single time that they say it. And
this is the second time in a row that they have said I love you, and she has said I love you too. That's all I'm saying. The only time that she said a plain I love you is when she said, Nathan, I'm in love with you. And then he said, I've never stopped loving you. And then in the next episode, he says, with that little shake of his head that we talked about when we moving forward, he said, I love you, and much quieter than that. And she said, I love you too. And then we have not heard them express their love for each other again until right here. And he said just one of the many reasons why I love you. And she said, I love you too. So that they need to alternate it.
Okay. Yeah. Next one, we'll be holding our breath. I'm sure we're going to hear it at least one more time this season. So
I hope so.
We've already far surpassed the number of I love yous since previous relationships. So they're doing much better with descriptive PDAs.
Man, you're making me die this half.
But I mean, seriously. It's crazy how long we had to wait for the second I love you last time.
Oh, don't get me started on that one.
Okay, not last time, but the first time.
Yeah, the first time. Yeah. Yeesh. You're right. The cup is half full, not half empty. Yes. They're doing so much better this time. But that moment where they are reconnecting, as you said, and making sure that they are on the same page, it was so fluid. Reach out, take hold, puts them behind her, grabs onto his shoulders. And then they did, Elizabeth likes to do the forehead resting with her men. I am noticing that. She likes to do the forehead resting thing a lot. It seems a way of connecting, another way of connecting. And just,
well, I think it's very nice.
It's another way of basking in their presence. Yeah. Oh, there's our vocabulary word from a while back. But yeah, it's kind of a recentering, if you will, because the two of you come together physically without kissing, but because that takes up a whole lot more emotion. And so the two of them come together, and it's just kind of taking a breath, reconnecting, recentering, getting back into the swing of things with each other. And it's cute too. So it makes for a great on-camera moment.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, Sarah, we're there.
Yeah.
So I see no point in going to another topic.
Well, I mean, unless the Hearties don't really care to cover the rest of this subject. I mean, you guys don't like romance, do you?
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're not watching this. They're not watching this for the romance. All right, we'll cover it. Don't get mad at me. Everybody's gonna be like, "What is it?"
Boycott Hearties hotline because of the silly Hawkeye Heartie. Okay, speaking of heads being very close. If you did not see this on Facebook or Instagram, I have to tell you about it now. Casey, our dear friend Casey, you know her, she messaged me on Sunday night, all in caps, saying, Cammy Clements. And I went, oh, what? And then, no spoilers, but get your ice bucket. And I just immediately took a screenshot and posted it. I said, this is too good. And I said, I think I'm going to need a mop, and I'm going to need an oxygen tank and a fan too. So Jess, Sarah, need you guys too.
We all have duties. Try to pick Cammy up off the floor.
That's a good way of putting it. But so let's start at the beginning of the episode, which would have been so great if, bless his darling little humble heart, but why couldn't he have been in the stables at that point? I mean, we got the looking from side to side, the talking quietly and closely, the ushering in the door, the backing into the room to kiss, and hello, there's a person. Hi. Dang it. You know what's funny though? I am not getting as upset at interrupted affection this time around. I mean, you remember when it happened with Jack, I was yelling at the television.
I mean, it comes with the maturity of the relationship, and the fact that and also just the fact that, like you said, a relationship is very different if you have met and are starting a relationship versus if you've known each other a really long time and have been through a bunch of stuff and are now starting a relationship. There's just completely different levels of comfort with each other, of understanding of each other, and they're at a point where, yeah, they just started like kissing a couple days ago, but they're very confident that this is endgame. They're both in this for the long haul. They're both talking with their friends about decades in the future when the kids are dealing with step parent issues. Like, it's a completely different situation than Jack and Elizabeth starting to date, and they're super young and neither one of them knows where this is going, or if he's going to be reassigned, or if they're ever going to see each other again, or who this ex-fiance is that's coming into town. Like, there's so much uncertainty when they're that young and that new to each other.
Yeah.
Versus, I've known you for years now. I've known your child for years now, each of them knowing the other one's child for years now. Huge part of each other's life, been through, know 100% I can depend on you. I know 100% what your goals are in life. I know that you intend to stay in this town if you can. I know that this is your job. This is how you feel about your job. I know this is all of these things. There is absolutely 100% certainty on both of their parts that they know exactly what they're working towards.
Not to mention the fact that Elizabeth has already been highly involved with a Mountie to the point of marrying him. And so I don't think she's as unstable with the idea of dating and marrying a Mountie as she was the first time.
Oh, yeah, there was so much uncertainty with that.
And she's not as desperate to be given information. You know, I remember watching season 2 when Bill comes up to Jack to thank him for saving his life when he's dealing with the money launderers. And Elizabeth says, "What happened? Can't talk about it." If you and I expect to have any kind of a relationship, you need to be 100% honest with me. And I went, no. He's a cop. You can't do that.
No, but also Jack was young. Jack also didn't play that card right. Both of them handled that situation not the best.
My point is, that the fact that she has already dated, been engaged to, and married a Mountie, she knows more of how this works. And
but also just life. I think yes,
that too.
But just being older, being more mature, having experienced any type of relationship.
Yeah, and being
it's not be her first time ever communicating with a suitor.
Right.
Like, she just is mellowed to that. She understands life is unpredictable. There are things beyond your control. Some stuff people can't talk about. some stuff you just don't need to know. You don't need to know every single in and out detail of every single minute of someone's day. And so she's mellowed, but Nathan's also older. Nathan has been raising a child, so he's got so much more depth to just his understanding of worldly things. There's just an understanding on both of their parts of the give and take of relationship and of communication. There's just so much more depth to it because they're older, and it's not as high stakes. It is high stakes, but it's like you realize the stuff you thought was high stakes when you were 20. It's actually not that big of a deal.
No.
When you're in your 30s and 40s, you're like, oh yeah, why did that stress me out?
Well, and this is a very simple reason, but they're showing more affection. So I don't have to get upset at all of the interrupted stuff because they make up for it. That's the very simple answer.
Well, right, but I mean, like, it's progressing.
Yeah.
Because they are older and more comfortable, and they've been through life and they know what they want. That's just the beauty of it, though, is
that is the beauty.
That it is so much just more calm without the turmoil.
Yes.
Emotional turmoil that you go through.
We've had enough turmoil with these two. It's time for some peace. And they are giving it to us. That's the big thing, is they didn't just all of a sudden get together and then new turmoil starts. We're getting the peaceful moments. We're getting the established moments. So, and speaking of which, apparently picnics with children don't count as dates.
No.
No.
I could have told you that. It's not a date. It was fabulous.
It was a family outing.
Yes. Which is something great that they're acknowledging, because that is a significant difference between this relationship of Elizabeth versus even with Lucas. Even though she had little Jack, it was still very different. He was younger, so he could just be with a babysitter when she and Lucas would have dates,
or he was taking a nap,
or he was a baby. He was just off doing his baby thing. And so even if he's in the room, it wasn't really disruptive, which is hilarious because it would be in real life if you had a baby in the room. But but also Lucas wasn't a parent, so you were coming at it from one angle instead of from both sides hitting you with these challenges of parenting and challenges of scheduling a date when both children were somewhere else. So I love that they are having a completely different dynamic with their dating versus other relationships she's had.
Yeah.
And they're acknowledging it and making it different while still finding ways of like bringing in newness.
Well, and then Allie decides to take it upon herself to kindly get rid of her father so she can have a birthday party with just her friends by saying, go on a date, a real date, go do something fun. And I'm just glad that he didn't wait until her birthday party, because we wouldn't have gotten that amazing scene. Because I'm telling you, when he starts walking around behind her, it got you too. I knew it would. When he starts walking around behind her and just the way he's looking down at her, and I love that he's taller than she is, because she's pretty tall. Yeah. And I just love that he's so tall that he can still look down at her, because I don't know, there's just something about that. Maybe because I'm married to a really tall guy.
Probably.
But he's looking down at her and walking around behind and speaking in his low voice, that he takes her hair, puts it behind her ear, and gets right there. I'm like, okay, pacemaker, please. I'm about to go into cardiac arrest. I needed that ice bucket. Casey was right. in a way, I would have loved to hear their conversation that they were having while they were on said ride by themselves on their date. But in another way, I loved that it was underscored with music and we were kind of seeing this montage and we were just seeing them happy and talking to each other. And the Heartie observer, Teresa, she did something brilliant, which Casey and I loved, and you'll get the idea. But she took a reel of Anne and Gilbert from Anne of Green Gables walking through the fields together with his horse. He had his arm around her, but same deal. And then right after it, she put Nathan and Elizabeth walking hand in hand through the field with him leading Sergeant. And I just went, okay, Teresa, you're brilliant. So go ask Teresa, the Heartie observer, for that reel, because they're one right after the other, and it was awesome. I loved it.
Nice. That would be perfect for you.
Yes, it was. It ended the episode on a very, very happy note for me.
Yes, no, it was beautiful. So do you think Allie was using that as a ploy because she knew, oh, I can distract him with Elizabeth? And then he'll forget the part about me ditching him and not wanting him anywhere near my birthday party.
He suggested a pony cart for somebody turning 17. Issue.
The dad.
He's a dad. But, well, and I think the other thing is that she has been such a tomboy for so long, and he's been around her since birth, but he's had her since she was 4. So very much a little girl, and very much a tomboy and into those kinds of things. So she's all of a sudden growing up and interested in boys, even though she denies it and says that wolves are much more exciting and more important than boys. Yeah, right.
No, it was very obvious that was not true.
Until Earl Wyatt showed up, but we'll get to that in a second.
Angela may be the only one who didn't see through that because she couldn't see it. But the look on her face was enough to be like, oh yeah, that's completely made up.
Yeah. But so he's not used to her being into all of these girly things. So this is new territory for him. And I think just like what she did with the picnic, she said, okay, let's go because Jack wants to go and it'll be a fun outing for the 4 of us. But then when she's on the picnic, she says, okay, we've had this whole picnic, the 4 of us. It's been nice. It's been fun. I need to get him out of here and give them a few stolen moments. So I think it is a marvelous case of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. And it's a really, 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 really big stone because one of the birds is small and the other bird is huge, because that's the real reason. The small bird is, she wants him to go out and have fun like a normal adult. She wants them to go and do things together, just the 2 of them, because she's like that. She's a lot more thoughtful than she is, especially after dealing with Dylan, her birth father. She has gotten so much more thoughtful. She knows how lucky she is and all of that. So she, there's a little tiny bird over here that she does want that for them. But there's a big, heavy bird, like the one that was too fat to fly away at Rosemary and Lee's wedding when all the birds escaped. there's a really big fat bird over here that says, I need to get him out of here because I'm turning 17. So, and then there are going to be boys at my party because this took me until the third or fourth time watching the episode. I did not hear that Allie is the one that got Wyatt the job at the saloon and hotel.
I missed that.
Yeah, see, it's quick. It's quick. It took me the third or fourth time watching it. I went, oh, Allie got him the job. Okay. Yeah. So
Isn't that interesting? Because whether it was Hickam or Coulter's who did the hiring for the hotel, they were all around when the Wyatts were in town. So they would all remember him.
Yeah.
Whether that's good or bad.
Well, it's obvious that he's changed. His looks have changed a lot too, haven't they?
Yeah. So this is where I plug my apologies. I had accurate information that Earl Wyatt would be in the season. And my credible source was accurate, but I had confused multiple sources I got this information from, and the one inaccurate, less credible source was the one that had said it was the same actor reprising his role as Earl Wyatt, which obviously this is definitely not the same actor because he looks very, very different and has a different name, of course, too. But it's very obvious that it is different. So I do apologize for stating it was the same actor. But
well, it's funny because this actor who is playing Earl Wyatt, he looks like he could be the teenage version of Chad, the younger brother. The first time he appeared on the screen, I went, that's not Earl, that's Chad. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. No, different actor.
Very similar.
But he does. He looks like he could be the teenage version of Chad. So I was like, it could have been Chad.
Could have just said the other name.
Yeah, just say Chad instead of Earl. But, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, part of that could be what is his personality, because Chad was always very much more behaved than Earl.
Yes.
And so depending upon where they're going with his character, even if he is going to be very kind and nice, maybe they wanted the illusion that he was still the bully to start this storyline out. I will say I thought he looked much more similar to their father, who I'm glad they still mentioned and kind of made an excuse for how he was traveling and why the rest of his family.
Yeah, that he didn't just show up, but I am
just like, here's this random teenager. Okay.
Now, before we leave the teenagers, there's one more situation that I have to bring up. Timmy and Emily, to be precise.
I don't think there is a Timmy and Emily yet, but I think Emily might wish there was.
I think that Emily does wish Timmy was spending money on her and got a job to save up money to spend on her, but the girlfriend lives in Benson Hills. And I remember Opal, I think, asking, do they go on dates? And but the 20s are when people started to do this kind of thing, where they did start to go out on dates and just go out for fun. And that's when this is all coming and all blossoming. So this is interesting. I've never seen Emily have a thing for any of the boys for as long as she's been on the show, and she was in the pilot. You remember that there have been little moments of kids liking each other in past seasons, especially in season 1. There was a lot of the kids liking each other. And, we've seen more and more throughout the years. And so now I'm going, ooh, Emily's got a thing for Timmy. Okay. One of those he was always there kind of thing. I think it's kind of a oh gosh, I almost hate saying this in front of Sarah because she's gonna flip out, but it's a Charles and Elizabeth situation. That, you know, Charles thinks he has all this time in the world to make his move because Elizabeth's not going anywhere. Uh-oh, she's moving across the country. Great. And so, yeah, he's always been there.
Yeah.
Since season 3, when his family moved in the settlement. And now she's thinking, oh, wait, we're graduating. We're probably going to go to 2 different places. I don't like the idea of not seeing him every day.
Could be.
It could be.
Oh, young love.
Oh, don't I know it? So we'll see where all of that young love goes. But right now, let's go to a pair. I won't call them a couple yet.
No,
but
you never know. But
yeah, I'll call them a pair of people who are butting heads. The gambler and the pool shark. That was a classic line. I see a pool shark dressed as a Sunday school teacher. I laughed so hard.
That was really clever.
That was so clever. Whoever wrote that line, power to you. That was great.
Yeah. So we are, of course, talking about our new character, Edie.
Which I love her as a character. You know,
oh yeah, she's fun.
She's adding a whole new dynamic, which is great.
Obviously, the writers need to create conflict this season. We need to have, you know, they do seem to be really trying hard to have the Elizabeth and Nathan storyline have some peace for a while, which is needed. So we need to create conflict and confusion and uncertainty in other areas of the town.
Yeah, and between Lucas, Edie, and Lee,
there's a lot of uncertainty.
We've got an abundance. We've got it in spades.
So I really like this idea. I like bringing on a new character. We don't know much about her. She seems really fun and like someone we could really like if she stuck around, but also is creating conflict because she has a very differing opinion about what should be done with the land that they have. And this creates a second issue for the second GV of Governor Bouchard. So we've pivoted, you know, from the resort. We are now on a plan for having the national park. And now it's looking like we have to pivot from that or change the plans, change the playground. Yeah, like really how is it that you have this gigantic piece of land that is owned to the point where you think you can build this gigantic piece of property? They were gonna build the resort there.
I know. So what's the big deal with the resort?
How did they get so far with the resort and didn't know that cattle need to be using the land where you were gonna build this giant building? I have
no idea.
Very confusing. So obviously I think there's gonna be a way to work through this problem, but right now we don't know what that is. And we have another really successful female attorney back when this was pretty unheard of, which is fun.
And if you'll excuse the pun, dear Sarah, but she's a trailblazing female attorney. So she does not take things quietly and she does not sit down while things go by. She is up there fighting the battles.
She's very active, and yes, this is the time of, you know, the suffragettes, and you've got Fiona Down working with them, and so you are having a big movement.
Yeah, she's running with the bulls.
and she fits that part really, really well. So loving this character. Some interesting things about her that we're not quite sure about.
Tell your theory. So you can put the hat back on. You can put the hat back on. Because this part is kind of a mystery. So
It's sort of a mystery. It's not being presented as such, but
yeah.
here's the deal. She took that glove off and revealed a wedding ring. Or what looked to be like a wedding ring.
It was a gold band on the left ring finger.
Right? So she didn't really address that. He did, and she kind of ignored it, which is very intriguing to me because, Kimmy, if you were married, since you are, and someone sees your ring and says, "Oh, you're married," what on earth would be a reason for you to not just say, "Yep"?
It would be, oh, yes, his name's Will.
Yeah, like you just acknowledge, "Yep," and then you move on if you don't want to discuss it, or if there's a reason not to discuss it. But I don't see any reason why you wouldn't say yes or no. Either way. So this leads me to believe there is a mystery here, or some tactics maybe to mislead people. Okay, so here's my theory. My theory is that potentially she is wearing a ring to keep people at bay who may just see a single woman in a professional field and try to take advantage of her, try to maybe flirt with her to get their way, maybe try to, use that as a means of not taking her seriously as an attorney. And being an established married woman might, in her eyes, maybe give her clout, give her protection. Maybe people won't bother her if she thinks a husband will then, stand up for her. I think it could be a tactic to be taken more seriously as a professional.
When I was in college and I was flying home for holidays and vacations and stuff, I did the same thing. I bought a little $5 fake engagement ring at Walmart, and I needed it for my theater props. I played a married woman constantly in plays. And so I just took it out of my jewelry box and put it on. That way I'm walking through the airport all by myself, but no one tries to make a move on me because I've got an engagement ring on. And then I'd get on the plane and kind of take it off and put it in my pocket or something like that.
Well, I mean, I've known a lot of people that have done that, especially in specific situations when you're just like, I don't want any complications right now. I don't
want to be taken seriously.
I want to be taken seriously, or I want to just, I'm not looking for anything right now, and this will just dissuade people from potentially asking me out or hitting on me. But then it also is kind of well known as kind of a safety hack of like, it looks like maybe you're meeting someone there. Maybe you're not alone in the airport. Maybe you're just walking to the bathroom and back, and there's somebody waiting for you 5 minutes away. And so it can really help, especially a woman traveling alone.
Yeah.
And so, and she's on a train, she's traveling, she's going somewhere that she doesn't live regularly. She's going to this property that she's inherited, I believe, and
it's her Uncle Ernie's ranch.
Yeah, and so there's a lot to be said for potentially that being, something that she's just using as a ploy for whatever reason. Otherwise there's another interesting story there.
Yeah.
If she is married, then there's some other interesting story to do with that, because there's no reason to avoid that question.
No, there isn't. Problem is, I want to like her character a lot more than I do right now, because she's making Lucas and Lee fight.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating because they are obviously good friends. I actually watched the Edify show. Tiffany did an interview with Kevin, and they talked about the relationship between the two of them as people, as Chris and Kevin. And they even said that elements of their friendship have come into play with this friendship between Lucas and Lee. And he said, friendships have hard times. And so we've kind of looked at this situation. How would we handle it if something like this were happening to us in real life with each other? He's handling this situation with a little bit more grace. You know, he left. He said, okay, fine, I'm going home. And he can tell, he can see that Edwin is trying to pit them against each other. Cavan also called Edwin a snake. He said, Edwin's a snake. I think Lee calls him that a few times on the show, but Edwin's a snake. I love Eric, but Edwin's a snake. So
yeah, agreed.
So yeah, but Lee's not an idiot. He knows what Edwin is doing. He knows that Edwin's trying to wedge a space between Lucas and Lee and fit himself right there in the middle. And so he goes home, but what can you do when the governor with whom you're fighting and with whom you're really good friends follows you back to home? You know, I mean, there's very little that you can do. And so what does he do? He says, you're not welcome here, by filling his office with hazelnuts. So, which was, you know, manipulative and passive aggressive and smug, but
it got the message across.
it got the message through. And
it found a place for the hazelnuts. So I killed two birds with one stone once again.
But I also do think that Lucas needed to see all of this. He needed to see that Lee knows what's going on and he doesn't like it. He needs to see what Edwin is doing because Lucas is very new to politics. You know, he felt like a big fish in a small pond in Hope Valley, but now that fish has gotten much smaller when it moves to the lake and even the ocean of the entire territory. And he's very new in politics. And Edwin is bringing a very confident persona in the political field. And so he thinks that he can trust him and rely on him. But when so many things are going back and forth and Lucas is trying to make so many people happy, I mean, this is going to happen. You have to jump through a lot of hoops and you have to decide what's most important. And Lucas, yeah, he's got great ideas and he has really good ideals, but not everything is going to work smoothly. And he needed to see that choose your battle, because whatever it's going to be, there are going to be consequences.
Yeah, I am really interested to see how this one pans out, because I mean,
me too.
We know that Lucas will end up being okay in some way, but yeah, I mean, where can this go? Something has to get resolved and has to be, you know, moving forward. Whether he stays governor or not long term, he has to be able as a character to move forward and learn from it and have a path forward. And it will be interesting to see what direction they take that in. But Lee has an idea for a different direction to go in if they're not
determined to make his mark.
He's like, my gosh darn it, my daughter's gonna have her name on a sign. I wish I could take this hat off and put on a beekeeper hat, but I don't have one, and I've not purchased it just for this.
I lost it in the move.
Oh, that was. Wait, we talked briefly about it earlier, but
we did, but
that was literally one of the best scenes in terms of just like a comic relief, fun character look of all the characters in that scene. It was so great.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of like some standout scenes just over the years. Like the first one that comes to mind is Lee's laryngitis. Because like it really had no bearing on the long-term arcs of the show, but it's a scene that was so, you know, it had multiple scenes in the show, but just such a hilarious opportunity to see the characters do something off the wall that is going to stay with you. And I feel like that scene of Elizabeth and Rosemary hiding behind the trees with beekeeper hats is going to be a scene I remember forever.
Burned into my brain.
Burned into my retinas.
On a more serious note, though, I do have to say it is very touching to see Lee taking this so seriously.
Yes.
And that he truly is not just doing an ego thing. He had a big idea to help his friend, the governor.
Yeah.
But he wants to see this through so that he leaves a legacy for his daughter. And this is something that is truly weighing on him because his father died when he was Lee's age now.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was so interesting. He's updating his will with Bill. He's getting a doctor's appointment with Faith to see how he's doing and how he's faring. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this is really serious for him.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of secret keeping with Lee. Lee's usually the open one.
I get what he said, like, we don't want to worry Rosemary, but at the same time, especially since her mom has passed away, like, I do think she would understand just that feeling of, I just want to have these things prepared because it makes me feel better knowing that my dad didn't have those things prepared and that, you know, he passed away unexpectedly and hadn't, you know, gotten all these things in order before he died.
Yeah.
And it just makes me feel better. And especially knowing that, like, he did get a clean bill of health from Faith, that everything is seeming totally fine. Like, I don't see why. I feel like it's going to be worse.
I think that this is something that he'll tell her in a week or two. You know, and it might not happen on screen. I'm okay with that. It would be nice if we saw it, but this is something that he doesn't want to say anything right now because he's emotional about it. He's right in the middle of it. But, you know, in a week when things have calmed down and he has calmed down, he'll say, okay, confession, I need to tell you this. So I think he'll tell her.
Yeah.
He just needs a little separation.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there is our 2-episode cover. We talked a whole lot about those hazelnuts. Those hazelnuts got a lot of airtime.
They did. And we might not be done with them.
I don't think we are. All right, everybody. Well, you have a marvelous morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in your day. And I'm going to close. I've been reading some of my old blogs lately, so I'm going to close with my old signing off line. May your heart let your hope blossom.
Have a great week, Hearties. And I'm feeling a little hungry. I'm going to go see if we have any Nutella. I don't know why I have a craving for that now, but anybody else? No?
I had Nutella on a waffle not a few days ago, so I've got my hazelnut fix.
Okay. Have a great week, Hearties. Bye.